I wish I were a girl again, half savage, hardy, and free. Earlier this week, I finished Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This year, New Year's resolution for me was to read more classics because I long dismissed them. Probably like many, many other Americans, I just had a horrible experience with them in high school because they were turned into homework, nobody cared about them, the teacher didn't care about them, etc., etc. But I realized that, classics don't have to be miserable. They don't have to be boring. I read a few last year that I found really riveting, very encapsulating. I fell in love with The Count of Monte Cristo. I fell in love with Three Musketeers. So I just decided I should read more classics. I should try and read stuff that isn't just fantasy and science fiction all the time. I should open my horizons to other genres because, the few I've opened myself up to, I fell in love with. I fell in love with horror. I fell in love with the occasional thriller. So I wanted to read more classics, and to begin that early, I decided I was going to read Wuthering Heights. And unfortunately, this was not a classic for me. Now, I want to make it very clear. I think, number one, this absolutely should be a classic because it is brilliant. Emily Bronte is obviously a very, very good writer, number two. And number three, this is, again, just my opinion. If you love Wuthering Heights, I don't blame you. There's a lot in this book that I could understand someone else loving, but it is definitely a novel not for me. Just gonna tell you guys, I don't like misery in the sense that this book displays misery. I am not someone who listens to sad songs. I do not like sad books. And I don't like waiting in misery unless I really like characters. And I feel like you really gotta earn it for me to want to wait in misery. And unfortunately, Wuthering Heights just didn't do that with its characters. And this book is miserable. There is no other way to describe it. It is a book where the characters are singularly dedicated to misery, melancholy, and melodrama. These are legitimately some of the most toxic, petty, and vindictive characters I have ever read in my entire life, especially Heathcliff. I know that he's supposed to be the anti-hero. I know he's supposed to be this Broniac, or I forget what the term is, like Brioniac? I don't remember. Anyways, he's supposed to be this very dark, brooding, kind of awful character to be around. But I couldn't stand him. I could not stand Heathcliff. I could not stand Kathy, and they are the entire central beating heart of this novel. This very black beating heart. I could not stand either one of them because they fell in love as young people. Her dad brought him home. He's this social outcast, and at first I'm like, oh, I feel bad for this guy. I'm a person of color. I know what it's like to not always be respected by other members of society. I know the social conditions of the time that this novel takes place. I know who the Moors are. I've read Othello. So, I understand the social dynamic going on here, right? But oh my God, he's so insufferable. He is so miserable. He is such a mean-spirited and deeply despicable person. And he makes everyone around him worse. He makes everyone around him worse by just sheer proximity. He is that deeply unlikable and that deeply miserable. I couldn't stand it. I really couldn't. I finished the book. I think it's, I want to say the positives. I think it's really well written. I think the plot is very cool. I think the framing device is wonderful. You learn about the story of Kathy and Heathcliff and what happened with his revenge and all that through a very fragmented lens, a very biased lens of all these different maids. And you're basically getting it like a secondhand account. You don't read, none of it happens like as we see it, you know what I mean? And I think that's really brilliant. I think the prose is beautiful. Bronte obviously has a talent for writing, and I would love to give another book of hers a chance if she, had ever written another book. But I really, really I love that, right? I love the storytelling. I love how gothic it feels. There's a part of me, I do love the misery. You know what I mean? Like, there is a sick part of me where I'm like, yeah, but that's like the point. Like, I do like how dark and melancholic it is. But I think for me, I just couldn't get past the characters. I really, like, it's not like every character in here is like a miserable, vindictive piece of garbage, because they're not. There are a lot of good characters in this, including our main character Lockwood, who is figuring all this out via secondhand accounts. And there's a lot of people in this who suffer unjustly, but the fact that the entire novel is focused on Heathcliff and Kathy, I couldn't stand these two. I really, really could not. Kathy is horrible to her husband. She's not as bad as Heathcliff. It's not possible to be as bad as Heathcliff, but she is a culprit in this whole thing. And she is just, like, she's miserable. And then there's Heathcliff, who is, like, the most deeply miserable, insufferable man to ever walk the earth, probably. And it's not to say, like, there isn't something about him I understand. I get it. I do. Like, there are parts of him where I'm like, yes, you have potential. Because he does, like, the way he professes his love to Kathy is very moving. You know, if you have a beating heart at all, you'd be moved. But man, he's also so deeply toxic. And he has this opportunity time and time again to reform himself, to be a better person, to move on like a normal human being. And he just doesn't. He just doesn't. And he just becomes this petty, vindictive, just, I don't know, just horrible person. And I really respect that Emily Bronte went there. She really poured all her negative emotions into a singular person who then extracted that on everyone else. Took it out on everyone else in this story. I really respect that. But it made it really difficult to read. And there were just so many times where I had my eyes in, like, the back of my skull just because of what Heathcliff was doing. There were so many moments where I was just like, I hope this guy dies. I hope this guy dies. Really, truly, one of those characters where, like, he's so fun to hate. But yeah, it's just not for me. Like, I'm not a huge fan of, like, dark romance. I don't know if that's what you classify this as, or gothic romance. I'm a fan of the gothic stuff. The romance stuff, I'm not a huge fan of. I found the social commentary to be pretty cool. I like the social class stuff. I like the stuff about him being a Moor. All that's very cool. But ultimately, just not a story for me. You know what I mean? Like, it was just too miserable. It was too melancholic. And there was, unfortunately, the main characters were people I just couldn't really root for. So, it's a 7 out of 10. It does deserve to be a classic. There are a lot of people out there who I think this absolutely will work for. It obviously has worked for millions of people. But I'm just not one of them. And that's okay.